Thank you. We have roll call from the left.
Good evening, I'm Brian Collegian.
Nancy Austin.
John Grant.
Carl S. Moore.
Scott Marlowe.
Tom Pansella.
Jim Cater.
Bob Sadie.
And I'm Jim Quish, and we have Meg Green and David Sulkus with us from the city. Item 3 on the agenda, 771 East Broadway, has been postponed at the request of the applicant. So if anyone was here for that, no reason to stay. First order of business is 119 High Street, Zone MCDD, petition of Patrick Lewis for a site plan review to construct a solar carport on map 54, block 395, parcel 1, of which the Milford Bank is the owner.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Raymond Payer, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, Vice President of Engineering at West Cotton Mapes, located at 142 Temple Street in New Haven, Connecticut. We're the civil site design engineers for the project before you, here on behalf of the owner of the Milford Bank, as well as Patrick Lewis of All Electric Construction Communications. He couldn't be here this evening, he's out of town. I think you're all familiar with the site, 119 High Street, across the street from the Milford Bank proper, between High Street and Depot Street. This is just a colored rendering of the site plan you have in your package. Depot Street and High Street here, north up, and the railroad station being at the top of the page. We've taken the liberty to add the Milford Bank to give you a proportion and location relative to their parking lot across the street. The smaller feature here is the existing drive-through bank teller building, and the large feature here in a light blue color, so it stands out graphically, is the proposed solar panel carport. The property is 0.7 acres, 50 parking spaces in total. We are not changing the lot configuration. We are not adding nor decreasing the parking spaces. The green space remains as it currently exists, simply adding atop the northern portion of the parking lot the solar carport canopy. The canopy is approximately 250 feet in length by approximately 26 feet in width. We work with staff to demonstrate that we're in compliance for the canopy with the zoning requirements, i.e. the height, the setbacks, the lot coverage, things of that nature. We've worked with the city engineer for his approval to meet the MS4 requirements for the city by implementing water quality measures into the existing structures, as well as introducing new groundwater recharge infiltration measures with slotted and perforated pipe and stone connecting the structures in between. The height of the canopy on the front edge, we'll say on the south edge, is 14'6". For the purpose of avoiding any conflict with any vertical vehicles, although they're not anticipated to have truck traffic through there, and it's posted as such, but should a fire truck or any other type of large vehicle, similar to bridge requirements, we have a 14'6" clearance on the front edge. The solar panels have pitch to them in the structure such that the rear trailing edge on the north side of the canopy is 17 feet or greater. The columns, proposed columns, are in line with each of the parking spaces. We performed survey to ensure that the placement and location of the proposed structure would not impact the existing parking layout. The panels are obviously on top of the structure. They're truly not visible from street level. The carport itself, the structure, a pre-engineered structure set up on columns. The base of each column is designed with a brick surrounding accent around each column with a beveled concrete cap that occurs at each of the column locations. The trim work on the columns and the fascia is white, and this is in concert with the current architecture of, you'll see the Milford Bank and as well as the ATM or the remote teller bank. I'll show you the photos. Just briefly, the bank, as you know, the brick and the white trim. Here's a photo of looking eastward in the parking lot, looking westward. The canopy would go here, and this is the drive-through bank area. As we know, the carport would provide shelter protection for the vehicles that park beneath it from rain, snow, things of that nature. The lot is reserved parking for employees of the bank. That's the purpose, and it's signed as such. That's the operation of that particular lot. But in addition, obviously, to that is the benefit of the solar power. Obviously environmentally friendly and well received to reduce fossil fuels or similar type of energy sources. Therefore, the use of solar is a passive and popular current energy source, so positive to the environment. It reduces pavement reflection of heat as well because it obviously shades a portion of the parking lot. We believe it's a positive in terms of its function and its supply for power, and respectfully request your consideration for approval this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. First, I'd just like to commend Milford Bank for helping to green Milford. I think it's a great thing myself, and I'm fully supporting it. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Marlowe.
I think I agree that it's great to see this being done. I had a couple quick questions, though. One was because the roof is pitched towards the parking lot, what precautions are there for the snow load, and is there any concern that snow is going to come dumping down on people as they're walking in and out of that?
Good point. Yes, there are structural precautions taken. I'll flip to one of the particular sheets in the plan set. There's a detail indicating ice rail bracket. So on the edge, the shallow edge of the carport, there's a structural system that would then divert ice or snow melt to make it a safe condition.
Thank you. The other question I had is, with the size of the parking spaces, because of the piers, is there any concern because you don't have 9-foot center to center? You have center to center, but you don't have that where the pier is. You might only have 8'4" instead. And is that a concern at all?
Good observation. Similar to parking garages where there is allowance for smaller spaces, this too would apply. So now the location of the columns would not interfere with the vehicle, the parking, the doors opening of that nature. It's well within tolerances for people's driving abilities, so no.
All right, thank you. And just one last question for Mr. Sulkus is, I know that this has been like 2 or 3 times that this has come, not before us, it's been postponed, but I see just differences in the staff review from one to the other. And is that just sort of like it was a work in progress type thing?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay, but it's, from your end, it's fine.
It's not up to me, it's up to you. You know, they have architectural details that they say comply with Appendix B. If you agree with that, then yeah, and if you think the parking spaces work, then okay.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Salkis, would you like to provide any further review or input?
Might as well read one of the versions of my report. The applicant proposes to construct a solar carport in the parking lot at 119 High Street, located between High Street and Depot Road. The work is subject to site plan review as an accessory structure to the bank and parking lot. Architectural details are incorporated into the design in accordance with Appendix B of the zoning regulations. A stormwater collection system has been reviewed and approved by the city engineer.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I would then hear a motion. Ryan,
I move to approve with conditions the petition of Patrick Lewis for site plan review to construct a solar carport on map 54, block 395, parcel 1, of which the Milford Bank is the owner, with the following conditions. The applicant shall update their plans to the satisfaction of the city engineer for drainage.
we have a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Cater. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Next order of business is 127 Shell Avenue, Zone R7.5, petition of Ray Oliver for coastal area site plan review to construct a single-family dwelling on map 27, block 457, parcel 22, of which John and Sarah Longobardi are the owners.
Good evening. My name is Ray Oliver, architect with offices at 3 Lafayette Street in Milford. I'm here representing John and Sarah Longobardi with an CAM application for the replacement of their existing house with a new house on 127 Shell Avenue. The main point of this is to create a new house that is in full compliance with all the FEMA and flood hazard regulations, and to provide them with a new house for their family to enjoy on their property.
Excuse me, could you get that mic a little bit closer? Thanks.
I'll try. Thanks. The site is a waterfront site on Shell Avenue. You're probably familiar with it. It's a large piece of property that extends out into Long Island Sound, approximately 1 acre in size. The application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals for side yard variances, so that the new building has a 7-foot side yard on where 10 is required, 3 feet where 5 is required. There's on the eastern side of the site, there's a 10-foot passway that is a public passway for people to use coming off of East Broadway. It's a sort of interesting site in that it's the dead-end section of Shell Avenue. If you've driven down there, Shell goes over to Seaside Avenue, but the other way, it goes to this dead end at this property and the property next door. So the street actually ends pretty much where the passway is. With that in mind, one of the major concerns of the family is to develop enough parking. So the elevated structure is going to be able to accommodate 6 parking spaces within the structure. There'll be additional parking spaces that are in the driveway itself, but this will alleviate some of the congestion that happens down on that very narrow end of Shell Avenue. The building will be elevated. The flood hazard zone here is elevation 13. The first floor elevation will be at elevation 17. So it's well above the AE 13 zone. The foundation will be constructed with piers and flow-through vents around the perimeter. All of that is described in our details of the structural foundation with the piers and the flow-through calculations. On the main floor of the house would be the living area. There's an elevator that gets up to that living area, kitchen, dining room, a deck to the outside. On the next floor up is the bedroom area where the master bedroom is in the front towards the water. There are 2 other bedrooms for the boys, 1 bedroom for their daughter. And then up on the 3rd floor in the attic, there is a sort of bunk room that would be available for all the cousins and friends of the kids. The design of the house is in our sort of coastal architectural design, spike gables, round windows, mullioned windows, balcony rails, and a lot of detail to give the house the kind of character that people are looking for on the shore. The driveway area will be gravel area. There would be side yards that are planted. There's the beach area with a deck and then a little terrace beyond that that's behind the setback of the existing neighbors' houses. Ron Wasmer has designed the CCG engineers have designed the stormwater detention system for the structure. There are 2 sets of galleries, one under the front deck, one in the back towards the parking area. And Greg Pogluski has reviewed that and has found that acceptable. Greg had a number of comments in his review, most of which are technical and would be addressed in the review by the building department. He had comments about where the air conditioning is going to go, or the air conditioning condensers will go. They would be located up on this little flat area, which is a kind of widow's walk on the top of the building. The electric panel would be above the elevation of the flood hazard. As I said before, we're well above the flood zone of 13 at elevation 17. Greg also had some corrections to my CAM report that we had listed shorelands as one of the resources, but he said it's actually tidal wetlands, so we've made that adjustment to the CAM report. The house itself is the ground floor with the parking, first and second floors, and then the attic floor. The overall height of the building to the midpoint is 34 feet 6 inches. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Mr. Sulcus.
The applicant is proposing to construct a new 3-story dwelling unit of 34 feet 6 inches in height, as measured from the starting point of elevation grade of 9 feet. No topographic information or spot elevations are shown on the survey dated 2/18/19 by Andrew Flanagan to confirm the height. Height will be confirmed with the submission of an as-built drawing for the issuance of a CO. The flat roof portion is required to be less than 10% of the roof area per section 4.1.13. There appear to be no adverse impacts to coastal resources.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Oliver, a couple of questions I have on the engineer's report. One of the things that's difficult for us is we do not have your CAM application with us. That's not a big problem, but the engineer's report on page 2 refers to a 2019 CAM application. That's found on page 2, paragraph 6. Do you know when you made the application for the CAM?
We had the original CAM report when we were submitting for the variances, and then we resubmitted it for this site plan review.
The point is, it says November of 2019. I'm assuming that's an error, but just when did you submit the first CAM application?
I don't recall the original date of it, I'm sorry.
The second question I have to you is that what Mr. Podolsky does recommend is you submit a new CAM application, and the problem is with the submitting of a new CAM application, it appears that the Milford Inland Wetlands Commission needs to be revisited also because they're approving it based only on what they had been given, which was prior to any changes we might make. Could you just explain that to us?
Mary Rose issued a letter of approval for this application. Her letter is September 6th, and she reviewed the information that was submitted at the end of August, the plans that you received and the CAM report. She had no questions about anything except to be sure to use best management practices with sedimentation and erosion control. Do you have a copy of that letter?
Yeah, it's in the file.
I do have the letter, but the point is if we revise the plans, then do we have to go back to the Inland and Wetlands Commission to get their approval? That's why I'm...
Yeah, I don't think the plans would need to be revised. What Greg is looking for would be to have certain indications on the CAM application revised. One of which I mentioned earlier was that on the original application, we had shorelands, developed shorelands, and he said that it should be coastal waters instead. So it's the same area, but just with titled differently.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Sulcus, could you refresh us? I couldn't quite hear it clearly. Was there a CAM that we approved?
There was a CAM that was submitted at the time this application came to the board, and I believe what Mr. Oliver is saying, they had gone for a variance, and at that time, I think, did they submit a CAM at that time as well?
Right.
So there's an updated CAM, and then Greg Greg Bedlowski had some issues about how something was classified, but the latest CAM and the latest plans that are before you were reviewed by inland wetlands, and they were approved by inland wetlands.
So there's no need to come back with a different CAM if we were to approve this tonight?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'd hear a motion. Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve with the following conditions: the petition of Ray Oliver for coastal area site plan review to construct a single-family dwelling on map 27, block 475, parcel 22, of which John and Sarah Longobardi are the owners. The proposed condition first is that the applicant shall update their plans to the satisfaction of the city engineer for drainage, sidewalks, aprons, and curbing, and that is found on the last page of his findings A through K. I also submit a second condition that the CAM application that's referred to on the 16A, which is referenced in J, should be revised pursuant to that two interlocking comments.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grant. We have a motion and a second. Are there any further discussion? Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I thought I heard that we didn't have to redo the CAM.
David, would you clarify the question from Mr. Marlowe?
What was the question?
As part of the conditions was a revised CAM report, right? But I thought you said we didn't have to have a CAM, a revised CAM.
We have a CAM. What the city engineer pointed out was that something in it was not classified the way that it should be, basically a check mark of a box. So the applicant has testified that they're going to make that correction. It's not going to change the plan or impact inland wetlands or impact any approval.
All right, I just maybe misunderstood what the condition was. It sounded, Mr. Sadi, as if you wanted a new CAM or revised CAM, but we're looking to correct wording in the CAM, correct?
Mr. Sadi, go ahead.
Thank you. As a proponent of the motion, I was requesting that all of the conditions of Mr. Podleski on the last page, which would be A through K, which does include a CAM application being revised pursuant to paragraph 16, which is before.
But we will not need to see it. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Next order of business is open for public comment. It is 622 Gulf Street, R18, petition of Kevin Crusading Esquire to create a 4-lot subdivision and coastal area site plan review on map 28, block 520, parcel 26, of which George H. Ward is the owner. This is an action on a proposed settlement for Francis G. Luparilla et al. Versus Milford Planning and Zoning Board et al. Docket number. If settlement is approved, there will be a CGS section 8-8N hearing for the court to decide on the proposed settlement on Monday, September 23rd at 9:30 a.m. at the Superior Court for the Judicial District of Ansonia, Milford, at Derby, 106 Elizabeth Street, Derby, Connecticut.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just for the record, my name is Thomas Lynch. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Lynch, Trimbicki, and Boynton, and my office is located here in Milford at 63 Cherry Street. And I'm here with Kevin Crusading, also attorney here in Milford, commenting on the matter that's before you. And what we do have before you and has been submitted to the court in Derby, and there's a hearing scheduled before Judge Tima on Monday, is a settlement of an appeal that I brought on behalf of my clients, Francis and Mona Luparella, who are the owners of the property at 646 Gulf Street, which is property that is adjacent to the east of the Ward property, which was the subject of this board's approval of a 4-lot subdivision application last summer. Just briefly, we filed an appeal of your decision in Superior Court that was filed in August of last year. We made certain technical allegations in the appeal, but the main concern that my clients had was that the access to lots number 1 and 2 of the subdivision, the 2 larger lots that are located on Gulf Street, if you remember, there's the 2 lots on Gulf Street and then the 2 lots in the rear that are accessed by the private driveway coming off of Oldfield Lane. The access to lots numbers 1 and 2 of that subdivision map that was approved by the board is gained through a 1921 easement that was granted by the prior title owners to my client's property at that time to the prior title owners of the Ward property. And our concern was that with 2 additional houses being built onto those 2 lots and 3-car garages and with, modern access of families to multiple cars in a family, that the easement that was created by that 1921 document and is shown in the lower left corner of the map that I just handed out to you of my client's property, by having the additional homes there, it would be an overburdening of that easement. So after a lot of time and effort on behalf of myself, Attorney Kersaden, our clients, and the engineers, we've reached a settlement of this appeal. And the settlement has no effect on this board's basic underlying approval of the project. The 4-lot subdivision remains the same. The only thing that we've agreed to in terms of settling the case is to realign and create a new driveway to access those 2 lots. And again, I make reference to the handout that I just gave to you. That driveway is now shown along the easterly end of my client's property and then taking a turn into the Ward property to create the driveway for the 2 lots that are affected by it, lots numbers 1 and 2. These plans were reviewed by the fire marshal. Fire Marshal Begley issued a memorandum on the 12th of September saying that with the fire hydrant that's going to be located on Gulf Street and the radius tying into the paver area that this board had as a condition of approval for fire apparatus to access the 2 rear lots, lots numbers 3 and 4, he issued a memo saying that this redesigned driveway meets his standards. So basically, the only thing that happened here was the realignment of the driveway on my client's property. It's nothing to do with the Ward property. All conditions that the board placed in its vote of approval will remain in effect. The only thing that will change will be the realigning of the access driveway. And my clients were pleased with the outcome of these negotiations because by moving the driveway further back, it now enables them to construct a home on the front part of the property. Before, with that 1921 easement located there, as you can see, and I drew a yellow highlighter as where that's located, they wouldn't be able to have a house with close proximity to the street and utilizing the, the excellent water view that's afforded by that. So by moving the driveway back, they can now build a house closer to the street. There's another aspect to the settlement. I won't go into great detail, but there were deed restrictions that were negotiated between the parties. Mr. Ward's house on lot number 2, I believe, is going to be built no closer than 80 feet to the street. My client's house on his lot would be built some 70 feet from the street. There's a common driveway agreement that's going to be recorded on the Milford land records that sets forth the cost of putting in this new driveway. That cost is to be borne by Mr. Ward, but future maintenance of the driveway is going to be shared by the parties on a negotiated percentage basis. So that's it. If Kevin has anything else further to add, we just wanted to come before you tonight to give you the basically the capsulation of what was a long 9 months trying to negotiate this the settlement, and I think everybody ends up in a situation where each of the parties are pleased with the outcome, which is something that rarely happens when lawsuits are involved. So we're pleased to report that to you. So if you do have any questions, or if Kevin had anything else further to add. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Sadi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Lynch. I have a memory of this, and I thought it was your clients, or at least you spoke on behalf of your clients at that particular hearing, and it might have been more than one, correct?
More than one client?
More than one hearing. We may have had more than one
I
hearing.
believe I was at just one hearing, Bob.
What I'm trying to figure out on the yellow that we have on the map, because your font is about as small as you can get and nothing's going to make it bigger.
Right.
Is the map, the area of the map we see, is that your client's property or is that the property that we approved?
No, the map that I handed to you, that is a survey of my client's property.
Okay.
That's my client's lot. We just wanted to show the realigned driveway, and that's the only portion. Nothing changed on the subdivision.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Kevin Crusade. My office is at 3 Lafayette Street. I'm representing the Ward property. Mr. Lynch summed it up correctly, and we'd ask that you approve this settlement tonight. That's part of the practice book and the statutes. It has to be approved by the board and then approved by the judge. So in addition to the public being offered the opportunity to comment on the settlement, then the board just needs to make an approval if it deems fit. There's no change to the subdivision approval. There is a slight lot line adjustment that's included in the package in addition to the relocation of the easement that's not on my client's property, but it has no other impact on the subdivision approval.
Great, thank you. Mr. Solkis, anything to add or clarify?
I have nothing to add or clarify.
Great, thank you. Okay, this does not require any action from the board.
Mr. Crusaden?
Yes, it does. Under statute 8-8N, it requires the board to approve any settlement, and then that approval gets reviewed by the Superior Court judge.
Great, thank you for that clarification. So in light of that new information, I would hear a motion. Actually, it's different than a public hearing, so just public comment. First time we've done that, but I would hear a motion, Mr. Marlowe.
I'm not sure how to word it, but I guess I would move to approve the settlement that was agreed upon by the parties with Attorney Crusaden and Attorney Lynch and their clients.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Panzella. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Next item of business is liaison reports. We have not had any volunteers yet for liaison positions. We were going to put that list in the package. I don't know if it got in there. Or is it in the Dropbox?
It should be in front of you. It was handed out.
Actually, I have copies. I'll pass them out. I didn't know if people had them or not.
Okay, if you could pass them out, we'll pass them down. You pass these down? So first one we have is a liaison to the Board of Aldermen. Do I have a volunteer?
Mr. Quist, just a point of order, please. Since half of the board is up for election or re-election this term, does it make sense to start appointing people that may or may not be joining us in November?
Yeah, good point. We can wait. That's fine. But if you would hold on to this for those who are returning, and give it some thought, because I think it's a great way for the various branches of the city government to stay connected. It helps. So we'll ask for this again after the election. Subcommittee reports. We did have a meeting of the POCD subcommittee this evening, and we do have a new web presence specifically for the POCD with a lot of information in it. It is accessed through the City of Milford website, and it is you just click on Plan of Conservation and Development, it'll bring you to its own page, and if you just sort of search around, you'll find your way. It's not that difficult, and there's a lot of good information there. And we will meet again on the first meeting of next month, and we will continue to meet the first meeting of each month going forward. And we will get the minutes will be emailed as well as put into the Dropbox and into the website. And we will have a regulation subcommittee next meeting, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So will that interfere with POs?
No, that'll be the second meeting of the month.
Yours?
Oh,
Because you had said first.
yeah, maybe I misspoke. Okay, so the regulation subcommittee will be the first, and the POCD will be the second. Seeing we missed one, I got confused.
It's okay.
I confuse easily. Approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion? Mr. Sadi, second. We have all those in favor? So that's approved. Chair's report, I have none. Staff report.
Yeah, this month there was a lot line adjustment with the lot consolidation for 372, 374, 378, and 0 Crabtree Lane. The lot line adjustment and consolidation resulted in 2 conforming lots being created.
And what was the condition before? It was
4 oddly shaped lots that were not zoning compliant. So we ended up with 2 fully zoning compliant lots.
was it one owner or was it multiple owners?
One owner.
That owned all various?
Yeah.
Okay.
It had only one house that was not compliant because of the way the lots were originally cut up, and they held on to all these lots from whenever,
Right.
it's been in the family, and they have since done this.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Without any other comments from the board, we're done, adjourned.